Another Wednesday morning, and we'll have to bring you AM Business. And there is a growing concern about the future of the country's food security as agriculture continues to be dominated by many small-scale farmers, some of who utilize just simple implements to undertake their work. Well, if you want to till the land, you have to use a lot more technology than that. And in an address at this year's New Year School, President Akufo-Addo promised an aggressive mechanization of agriculture across the country to make food cheaper and also increase a lot more of the incomes of farmers. And so today on AM Business, we're taking a look at the agricultural sector and also highlight some new technologies that could be adopted to boost productivity. But first, here's some information for you, graphically done. It's an infographics on agriculture. So it just gives you information about agriculture, not only in our country, but across the continent, and what we need to do as a country to promote the subculture of making sure that young people also not only engage in agriculture, but create value in the chain as far as the industry is. And somebody we featured on AM Business is here with us, and Joshua Yimboro. He's a CEO for Guelta Farms, and I know mainly you're into horticulture?
Yeah, that's right.
And you're into what specifically?
I'm into pineapple production.
Pineapple
recently just started adding a few assorted vegetables to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How critical is technology to the development of agriculture the way we want it to be, right, knowing that it's the best in some of the best economies we have around the world?
Right. So technology is so important these days in agriculture because it helps in reducing risks to farmers and then improving yields, which is one of the reasons why most people have to farm. These days, there are quite a lot of simplified technology that African farmers can use to make life better for them and then to help them take informed decisions. One of the basic technology that is readily available is the use of mobile phones, where you can download weather information and then you'll be able to understand exactly when to plant what and what time, and also be able to program your field activities to match what goes on the farm.
Wow, that's very incisive. But it means that if you're not educated, you can't use technology, can you?
That's right. You have a limitation, but then there's quite a lot happening in the space of technology these days, especially with Isoko. I subscribe with Isoko, and they are able to provide or deploy some of these technologies in local languages where our farmers who aren't educated can be able to follow up and understand. But mostly you actually need some education before you can use some of the technology that is really available in the agribusiness space.
I've been reading about Isoko, especially in East Africa. They're very vibrant there. Yeah. And especially when now we know that mobile money and the use of technology for doing transactions as well as other value-based chain services have become a lot more critical. Yeah. How can we deploy that in our country, for example, when we know farming is always on a subsistence basis? Because I wouldn't say even Gretel Farms is a big plantation, is it?
It's not really a big plantation. It's just 30 acres. And the probably some of the reasons why we have issues deploying technology, it's because we still do not have vibrant farmer cooperatives. And it's going to be very difficult to deploy technology on individual basis, go from household to household to train farmers. But rather, if you have a larger group of cooperatives where you can meet them and then talk to them on a group basis, to be easier for them to adapt. And there's one thing that I've also noticed being a farmer, that farmers really learn easily from other farmers than they learn from experts. So when one farmer gets trained into a particular technology and it's working, he or she will then recommend to another farmer, and then that is how it spreads.
So you're almost like a trainer of trainers.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
I think that approach would help a lot in deploying technology to farmers.
Recently, the Minister of Agriculture, Dr. Oseakutu, appeared before the Appointments Committee, and we know the President, Akufo-Addo, had been speaking lengthily about how agriculture will become the base around which we could have technological advancement and industry will thrive, etc. How do we do that on the subsistence basis that we have?
There will be a challenge if you're doing it in subsistence basis. And
like the way we're doing.
Yes, I always tell my colleagues that in Ghana, we rather have gardeners and not farmers, because if you have a quarter of an acre or you have just something you plant to feed your family, you are not just a farmer, you're just a gardener. So if we are going to look at agric as a business, then we have to start thinking about where someone can feed his family for a whole year and have excess enough to be able to sell. That is when it then becomes a business. So if the agric sector will improve and bring changes in our economy, then we have to start looking at massive acreages, and then where I would be able to feed my family for a whole year and still have excess to sell and then to feed other people.
You take India, for example. They have great landmass, big landmass, but they are not necessarily the biggest producers of large plantations of agricultural produce, but they are one of the biggest of agricultural produce across the world.
Right.
Why is it that we can't do that on subsistence basis then?
Well, so the challenge with subsistence basis is dealing with a large number of people at the same time. If I have to ask you to go around and then train 500 farmers probably in a month, you are going to have issues. And considering the cosmopolitan nature of our country, you are going to have people who speak variable languages, who understand variable cultures, and then deploying a simple technology across probably half of the country would require lots of logistics and money, compared to a country where you only have few people speaking few languages, and then you have them having larger acreages. If one person has 10 acres, it's easier to train the person. But if you have 30 people farming on 10 acres, now you have to go explain to these 30 people, probably in different languages, and that is where the subsistence approach it's giving us issues in this country.
But we know if we want to move to the next level, for which the president has been reiterating, or perhaps having that refrain, it means that we have to take it a notch higher. Who should be doing the work for the farmer? Who should be putting together the frameworks? Is it the states, or perhaps it should be a joint initiative?
I think it should be a joint initiative. You see, one of the reasons that is hampering massive growth in the agri sector is our land turner systems, because you can't get 1,000 acres to farm in this country, especially southern Ghana. You probably have to deal with 100 families or deal with about 25 chiefs, where you need to do different negotiations. But when I have an area where you have easy land turner systems, where you have either the government having possession of the land or one chief having several tens of thousands of acres, then it will be easy to grow. But then if you have 20 families, each having one plot of land or 2 acres, and then you need to grow, it becomes a very massive impediment to expanding what we're doing now.
And it's good you mentioned impediment. And there are many impediments on the way of many farmers who want to dream big. But we also know that we can improve in many of those areas. So we put together another infographic again. We hope that you enjoy it on the factors that tend to inhibit or perhaps be a challenge to many of the farmers and what the data should be. We hope that you get great education. And when you finish watching that, we come back, we'll be joined by the country manager for Isoko. You just heard Joshua mentioning that, and Daniel Asariche will be joining me in the studio alongside Joshua. We'll be having great conversation on technology, its influence on agriculture, and how we can make sure we use technology to expand agriculture the way we dream it. And we hope you got great education from that very infographics on the barriers or impediments to agriculture in our country. But we want to dream as fast as we can. And it's a follow-up to what the president has been reiterating, that he wants to take agriculture to the next level. And joining us is the country manager for Isoko. They use mobile technology and other forms of technology to help farmers or assist farmers not only improve their yields, but also communicate and generate a lot more, not only in revenue, but also the growth of the industry. And Daniel Asariche is here. And Daniel, very good morning to you. At Isoko, we already know with the great publicity you have, the great work you're doing. Fundamentally, what do you do, basically?
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers. Isoko is an ICT platform that works with farmers. So you provide communication tools that allow farmers to access simple market price information, that allow farmers to access good agricultural practice advisory services through technologies. You also have what you call an innovative program called an M-commerce solution that allows a farmer to use his mobile phone to save money towards the purchase of agricultural inputs. So you've been in the industry for like 10 years now, working with farmers across the country. You have another program with Vodafone where you work with Vodafone to provide agricultural content to farmers. So you provide market price data, weather information, year extension services. And then you also have Ghana's first Farmers Helpline, where farmers across the country can call and ask for any information on agriculture.
So even farmers from Secretary we also call?
Everywhere.
Or near Samra Boy?
Everywhere in the country. Now you have about 200,000 farmers on the Vodafone Farmers Club alone that access our services. Beyond that, you also do mobile data collection. So if you are a business, you want to register any farmer groups anywhere, you offer digital tools that allow you to register these farmers so you can easily engage them and use them for your program.
What does it mean? It doesn't mean if you're not educated, you can't use the platform.
Our services are offered to the smallholder farmer. If you know the dynamics or the demographic of the smallholder farmer, most of them are illiterate. So our services are geared towards actually promoting smallholder agriculture. I mean, in Ghana, 90% of small agriculture is already managed and owned by smallholder farmers. And so if you are running a program that is for smallholder farmers, you need to make sure that the service is actually tailored to the needs of the smallholder farmer. So our call center, for instance, speaks about 40 local languages. So any smallholder farmer anywhere in the country can call in and speak to a live agriculture expert. If you want to speak Ewe, Ga, Twi, Dagwani, Frafra, any language, about 40 major languages spoken in Ghana, are also spoken in our call center services. You do offer voice communication services to farmers. So if farmer wants to apply, say, fertilizer, how does he apply the fertilizer? You do all of this through mobile phones. The message gets to the farmer on his mobile phone, and he can listen to the languages, his own local language.
And I saw, Joshua, that you were nodding in the affirmative. So practically, how does it help you?
Well, practically, one thing that I like about Isoko platform is that I get market prices, and that is something that a farmer should know. And not just one from one market. You have like 5 options. So when I'm harvesting pineapples, then obviously I know, well, I know the prices at Gwebloshi, Malam market. They give you options. So when someone comes to bid for prices on your farm, you have a negotiation power, something that farmers didn't have initially.
And you use many tools as well. For example, in your farm, what kind of tools do you use? What kind of machines do you use?
Right. I use very basic, and some of it is actually customized technology that I use on my farm to help improve my yields. For instance, the very basic one is a handheld GPS, whether you have it or you even use your mobile phone in measuring acreages. When you go, I don't have that one here. Okay. When you go to buy land, for instance, from a local person, they'll tell you it's 15 acres, it's 10 acres. On what basis, you don't know. And then there are a lot of farmers who will tell you that I have 10-acre plantation, but under normal circumstances, it's not even up to that, or probably more than that. And in agriculture, precision is so important. When you go to buy 50 kilograms of fertilizer, you have to use it on a particular plant population. But then if you buy 50 kilograms of fertilizer that should be for 1 acre, you end up using it for 1.5, or you end up using it for 1/4 of an acre, then you are not being efficient in farming.
And we see that you have some of your tools here. Just tell us the usefulness of some of them and how they help you on the farm.
Right. So one of the most basic equipment that we use is the moisture meter. It measures both.
If you can show it to the camera, I will be grateful.
Right. So it measures both moisture and pH of the soil. And
this thing?
Yes, this thing. It doesn't use batteries. You just probe it into the soil, and then you are able to read what the moisture content is. And you know, the health of plants is majorly controlled by water. So if you have lots of water or you overwatered your plant, this equipment will tell you. If the plant is suffering or is in need of water, you would also know. So you are able to provide water just enough for the health of the plant. Apart from that, this is also a refractometer. Because I'm into pineapple production, I need to determine the sugar level of my pineapple before I take it to the factory, because they buy based on the sugar content. So with this, I'm able to determine what the percentage of sugar is in the pineapple to make sure that if my buyer needs 12 to 14% of sugar, I make sure that I produce the same pineapples. That is helping reduce lots of failures and rejects from the factories, because some farmers either take too sweet or pineapples that have lower sugar levels to the factory, and at the end it gets rejected. So how do you
use this? You stick it in or you just watch?
What you do is that you squeeze in a little bit of the juice. You take a sample from your farm, you squeeze it in here. It works with light. Then once you peep through this lens, you are able to, it tells you the sugar content of that pineapple that you sampled. And that is helping us a lot. And then we also have simplified pH meter. It's something that when you dissolve fertilizer in water, you use to determine the pH. When I started farming first, what I realized was that the farmers really did it by instinct. They just pour it there, they touch it, oh, it's cold enough. Some even go as far as tasting it. They just put their finger in the liquid fertilizer, they'll taste it and tell you, nah, it's okay. But you just can't be ingesting that much agrochemicals in your system. So with this small device, we weigh the fertilizer, we dissolve it, and then we're able to determine the pH before we start. So those are the basic tools that I use every day.
But that's somebody who knows that it's useful. How does your platform then give them that sort of a sensitization? Because we have to wrap up that discussion.
Yes, so we work with farmers all over the country to access information services. I mean, information service delivery to smallholder farmer is key to anything that you do. So just like he said, you cannot do agriculture without information. You cannot do agriculture without market price information. So anybody wants to sign up to Isoko service, you just have to call our call center, 1900, and then you'll be taken through the process of registering yourself onto the program. Once you get onto the platform, you then begin to have access to all this information that you talk about. If, say, you want to access your soil moisture content, you don't know how to go about it, just like he described. He can do it better. But the majority of the smallholder farmers in the country have not even seen a moisture probe before. have not even seen a refractometer before. They don't even know what they are used for. So if you are a typical farmer who is starting farming, that information delivery is key for you to be able to know what you should be doing in your farm.
So we have good prospect with technology?
Right.
Do we?
We do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. And so we've had in the studio Joshua Ayimboro, the CEO for Groyaltel Farms, and you're located?
At Nsawam.
Oh, it's in Sawam. It's the hub of the horticultural industry, at least I can say, in our country. And also joining us is Daniel Asariche, is also the country manager for Isoko. And thanks for joining me, Daniel.
Thank you very much.
And the two of you as well. And we have to take a break. When we come back, we'll be doing discussions. And Alex Afenyo Markin is around the studio. We'll be talking to him on great issues. He's a member of parliament for Ifutu, and he'll be joined by former MP for Ablekuma Central, Theophilus Tetechai. All in a bit. We're taking a break. We'll be right back.